Philosophy of education. When we think of the philosophy of education, we are left to pause and think, why is it important and what is it? When we think of why it's important, we think about the fact that there are many philosophical ideas that make improvements and deal with educational problems. When we think of what is the philosophy of education, we think of it being a practical endeavor that has a lot of ideas, but these ideas can inform good practices as well as these practices that we see in education inform good ideas. Everything that we do seems to be a reflection of some sort of philosophical view in education. When we dig deeper, we often find that there are some hidden ideas as well as to why we do certain studies, why we approach education in certain ways. There seems to be an underlying reason for that curriculum or the aims of education within that curriculum. Some of the critiques for philosophical critiques are early intervention. It's been critiqued because it very heavily focused on what children should do and developmental milestones. This is based on some empirical science that is defining knowledge and basically saying it's defined as what we can see and what is recorded. It's also seen as governmental or a hyper observation of the all-knowing teacher. So it's this all-knowing that is telling you what should happen when, and that is the seen as that framework of education. So those are some philosophical critiques of education. When it comes to the advancements, the removal of ELECT, or early learning for every child today, as the primary framework was removed, and how does learning happen was introduced. ELECT is very much that prescriptive developmental milestone document that really focuses on ages and stages and what should happen when under different domains, whereas How Does Learning Happen is a conversational document. The title alone is written as a question, and it gives you pause and reflection as an educator as to what you do in your practice and how you do it. So that pedagogy of how children learn is really explored here as a reflective piece, a critical thinking piece as an educator. The inclusion of the 4 foundations, which are belonging, engagement, expression, and well-being, really focus on us looking at how we can enhance these for children, families, and educators, and it's not focused on that governmentality or the same form of scientific measurement where we're saying children have to do this or that at a certain stage. We are finding ways to incorporate that belonging and different concepts and different needs for children holistically through the 4 foundations, which is a different type of document and seen as an advancement. Some of the other advancements would be, if you look at the Day Nurseries Act, which is our historic regulation in childcare in Ontario, it came into proclamation in 1946, and it was there for 68 years. It didn't really have major reviews until 1983, which is over 40 years ago. So the major review that we received and a major critical look was after having discussions, looking at theories and philosophies, and really seeing how education or learning or the thought of education and learning had changed through discussion papers like Modernizing Childcare in Ontario. So the Childcare in Early Years Act came into proclamation in 2015, and that was an advancement, a transformational regulation that added things that have more to do with how children learn, what educators can do to foster learning, and leaving that open-ended option for them to fill in the blanks rather than giving prescriptive information as it pertains to the philosophy or program statement for a program. So the modernization of childcare was really transformational as it improved quality, accessibility, and efficiency. This was the aim for that modernization. Some of the changes were regulatory, some of them were funding and system management changes. There was a real enhancement for quality, and that's where we have that evolution of the early learning and childcare, early learning for every child today framework, and using it more broadly, embedding it into how does learning happen, but really opening it up so that educators and families and children can really see it as a tool to support thinking, support learning, and really get us to reflect. Also, the integration of education and having the Education Act really talking about utilizing space and really trying to harmonize staff to child ratios to support that streamless day for children from the school to childcare to school. This is also significant because around the same time as the Child Care and Early Years Act was being proclaimed and coming out, that was around the same time that the kindergarten program came about, and formerly known as full day kindergarten. That was kind of the last year that all of it was implemented throughout Ontario, which was a big significant change again. With the Early Childhood Education Act, this was an act that was created to really govern and show the profession, really talk about the scope of practice, protecting the title, being very intentional about who can use the title, what it means, what is the responsibility of this individual as a professional in the sector. So that was of significance in terms of advancement, as well as the Education Act incorporating early childhood educators so that they were recognized and have functionality in terms of educating children within the school sector and having the ability to implement changes, monitor children, foster learning with them, just like the teacher within the schools as well. So having that incorporated was really part of modernizing childcare, because with the kindergarten program, formerly known as full day kindergarten, with that program, it included an early childhood educator and an Ontario certified teacher working in collaboration for the best interests of children from age 3.8 until they go to grade 1. The philosophy within the Day Nurseries Act has evolved from a philosophy to a program statement within the Child Care and Early Years Act. When it was a philosophy, it was very much looking for what are you going to offer children and families as a simple statement, which could have been a sentence or even a paragraph. With the program statement, it is a written program philosophy statement which is reviewed annually and by the program and parents, and it's really focused on children within the program. As you see in section 46.3 A to K, it is very specific as to what is required for a program in Ontario based on the minister's policy statement, which is how does learning happen at this time. So it's very prescriptive, but it leaves it open for that licensee or owner of that childcare center or program to add in the details, add in the how, the goal and the approach that they are going to use to achieve this program statement for children and families on a daily basis. So it has evolved from just a sentence or a statement, a sentence or a paragraph to a full statement with a lot of intentional points as to how you're going to meet the needs, and as well as the health and safety of children and families. But it does emphasize the need for indoor and outdoor and play and self-regulation. And these are all studied and philosophical ideas that are now embedded within this law that previously they didn't have. So this is something that is significant to early childhood education because it is more intentional. The program statement is more of an intentional document as to what you're going to offer children and families. A mind that is stretched by a new experience can never go back to its original dimension. take some time to reflect on that quote and what that might mean to you in terms of experiences that you may have had in early childhood education, experience that you may have had in your placement, or experiences that you've had with children and families in general. How are these experiences shaping you? When we look at growth and fixed mindset, it is really the concept that was introduced by Dr. Carol Dweck, and it describes how individuals perceive their ability and their potential. With the growth mindset, Dweck concluded that although individuals are born with different temperaments and different aptitudes, it is evident that experience, training, and personal effects influence the rest of their growth. So temperaments we talk about in child development as well, and we talk about goodness of fit. So understanding your mindset can help you with understanding also how you view children, so that image of the child, and how that shapes how you teach, educate, and set up your learning environment. For individuals with that growth mindset, a lot of the times they say they are more likely to embrace lifelong learning, take creative risks, and persist despite obstacles. So they keep going, they keep trying, and they try to fail better in terms of learning better and learning more strategies to be successful later. With a fixed mindset, in contrast, they often focus on proving their intelligence rather than developing it, which can be very limiting and really limit their potential and growth. So it is important to kind of understand this concept, just to think about it and to think about what is your mindset and how is your mindset shaping your philosophy and shaping the way you think, perceive the world, learn, or even teach young children or view young children.